Hey, welcome in everyone to the Advanced Control Solutions live stream. Today, Thursday at April the 16th. I'm Rick Lynch in the Middle Tennessee area. Today we're going to be just doing like a continuation of our simple spreadsheet programming in Cognex. If somebody could let me know there on the chat or a text if sound is coming through okay, that'd be great. Okay, great. Hey, thanks for the responses there. Okay, so again, today's level of discussion is going to assume that you have a little bit of background on machine vision. Nothing advanced. This is an introduction again. And it's just a continuation of what we did last week on the introduction to spreadsheet programming. So we'll keep this a pretty short video today, a pretty short live stream. Today we're going to talk about how to do a simple manual calibration to real-world units, and we're going to add a custom view, and then we're going to add a discrete output, and maybe do a sneak peek at a more advanced tool that can be used in the spreadsheet. Close to the end of the live stream, we'll do like a Q&A session, so if you have any questions during the live stream, please go ahead and chat those because it takes a few seconds to catch up to us here. And then we'll look at the questions close to the end of the live stream. And since you're already here, you know about our YouTube page, so feel free to subscribe and click notifications if you want to be automatically notified when we're doing our next live stream. For any other info, please go to our website at advancedcontrolinc.com. And thanks again. So we'll get started. So last week, we did a simple spreadsheet. And I'm going to go live here. So if you remember, all we did was we found a pattern and we found some edges. And then from the edges, we did a distance tool so that we could find the distance between those two edges. So we're going to pick up there where we left off. So what do we do in order to bring this to real world units? So this, again, there are a lot of different ways to calibrate a Cognex vision system. This is going to be a very straightforward, simple one. This is not going to be a nonlinear type of calibration. I'm showing a really kind of a shortcut here. If you're doing real world gauging, then this is probably not the preferred method. But if you're doing something that you need to get like a down and dirty rough measurement on, this could be good. So if you'll look on our webcam, I've measured here, let me go back live. There. I measured across and figured out that we've got basically 12 millimeters, that distance that right now we're looking at in pixels. So all I'm going to do, again, we're going to annotate this. So I'm going to hit apostrophe and I'm going to call this my scale factor. Okay, so for my scale factor, it's really just pure math. I knew that was 12 millimeters, so I'm just going to go 12 divided by 524.833. And now I have a scale factor of 0.023. That's 0.023 millimeters per pixel. I just took 12 millimeters and divided how many pixels that I had. So from here, I can annotate this again and call this distance. And then I'm going to make that in millimeters. And I'm going to change my font so it'll be a little easier to see. And now I can type equals this distance in pixels times my scale factor. So now I've got a distance of 12.0 millimeters. So the next thing that we're going to do, that literally is all that it takes to be able to do like a simple calibration. And we'll go live with this in just a minute and show, but to be able to show it on the screen at the same time, we're going to do something called a custom view. And basically all a custom view is just a way to highlight and show some data on the screen like on an HMI. So again, if you remember our snippet tab, I'm going to open up my snippet tab and go to my math and logic section, and I'm going to grab in a check tolerance snippet. Check tolerance snippet is nice because it already gives you a value, and I'm going to double click the value and select my distance in millimeter cell. So now I've got my distance in millimeters. I'm going to give it a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 13. So as long as I stay between 11 millimeters and 13 millimeters, this is going to pass. And I can also come here, I'm going to change the title of the value to distance in millimeters. I'm going to highlight all of these and change the font again so it'll be a little easier to see. Okay, so to create a custom view, it's very simple. You just highlight all of the cells that you want to be able to show in your custom view, and then you right-click and click Custom View Settings. Once you get this parameters box open, you see where it says Move and Resize. We'll click that. And then I can move those cells right up to the top of my image. That's kind of where I would like to keep it, and click OK. Now that we have that, there's a toggle button. You can hit F6, your function 6 key, F6. If you hit F6, now you can see my pattern tool result, you can see the distance result, and you have the custom view at the top of the screen. So I have this set to be able to go live. I'm going to go continuous trigger. And we are live now, and I'm going to put a new edge in so that the size or the distance measurement changes so you can see when this passes and fails. Okay, so that's pretty simple. If you toggle F6 again, that'll take you back over to the spreadsheet. One thing we probably needed to do was make those regions on the edge tools a little bit longer, but that's okay. You got the idea. So the next thing that we're going to do is a simple output, a discrete output, 24 volt output. So I'm going to annotate this again with output. I'm going to make that bold. I'll give it a black background and yellow text. And the command to do a discrete output is very simple. It's one word. It's write discrete. W-R-I-T-E, discrete. And I'll open parentheses. Now I have the property sheet for my write discrete. The event is when the camera is triggered. That A0 cell means when the camera triggers, that's going to start the output. It's going to look at the result. Start bit is 0. So we have 4 discrete outputs on the power cable, more if you have an I/O board. But Cognex starts at 0, so it goes 0, 1, 2, 3. Number of bits, we just need 1 bit. We're just going to be toggling this off and on. And then the value. If I double click the word value, then I select my pass-fail cell under right here and just double click. That inserts that cell as the value, and I click OK. Now you'll notice that right now it's at 0, and beside it there's a little yellow light. So number one, this won't update until I am online and triggering again. And let's double click our status light because we can change the colors. So for 0, which would be failing, I'm going to choose red. And for 1, which would be passing, I'm going to choose green and click OK. So now as soon as I go online, there the write discrete comes on, my green light comes on, and I'm going to try to make that fail so you can see that it does go to 0 in red. There we go. So that is that's a simple look at just doing a discrete output. It's pretty easy to set up. Now you can do the output with 24 volts, or you can set it up as an NPN. It all depends. You can wire this as a positive common or a ground common. Okay, let's jump ahead. And we're going to go to look at a little more advanced tool. And I'm just going to start a new job file here. I'm going to go live. There we go. Get focused a little more. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so some of the more advanced tools are image filters, and there's some pretty fancy tools that Cognex has that makes programming easy. Let's say, for instance, that you wanted to be able to do a measurement between these splines. There's a tool called Scale Image. Scale Image. Now I've got a parameter box that opens, and I can select a region. When I select this region, one of the nice things that we have is the ability to bend the region. So I'm going to bend this region so that it matches the contour of this cap. When I click OK, something neat happens up in the upper left-hand corner. I'm going to turn my overlay off, and now you'll see that we've flattened that curved area using Scale Image. So I'm going to go back to my region and open it up just a little bit more. And there are other things you can do with the scale image tool. So right now I've got this, you'll notice it's smaller than the original. I've got it at 50% in X and 50% in Y. So one thing you need to do in Cognex spreadsheet is X and Y are kind of flipped. So X is the down direction you'll see here, and Y is actually the direction going across. So if I double click or if I select my X scale and I tell it 150, that's going to make it 150% of the size of the region that I selected. So that could be nice. It might help you zoom in on something. And on my Y scale, if you go too far, it'll run off of the end of the image and it won't work. You have to keep it within the limits of the size of the image. I think I can go on this one about 140%. I'll move this out of the way. So I'm getting pretty close to the edge here. But you can see now I've really been able to flatten that out and zoom in, which is a nice feature. Now, if I was measuring across, I would probably want to keep that at 100 just to keep the scale equal. So what can we do with this? I'm going to say show the result graphic and go back to my overlay. So if you remember last week, now look at our spreadsheet. Now we have an image cell in A0, and I'm going to move this image cell down to A10. So I have an image cell in A0 and an image cell in A10. What does that mean? Well, that means I can reference that image cell to put tools on. So if I come back to my snippet tool and I go to my measurement tool and import that same snippet that we used last week, the midline to midline caliper, all I have to do in order to use this scale image filter or the A10 image is under each of my tools, I'll change this from referencing A0 to referencing A10. Now when I go to select my lines, they show up in the scale image. And now I'm measuring across using the scaled image instead of trying to have to figure out how to measure with the curved image. So again, this was just a quick look, really just a sneak peek at one of the more advanced tools that you can use in Spreadsheet. Okay, that really is going to, I told you it'd be like a pretty short session today. That's going to wrap it up for us. I'm looking over to see under our chat if there's any questions. I'll give it just a couple more seconds here. Okay, I think we're good to go. So, hey, thanks again for joining us today for the live stream, and we'll see you next time. So long.